Good morning, everyone. I, Analia Lacadon, will discuss learners with difficulty walking and moving. Learners with difficulty walking and moving focus on physical and motor disabilities, their learning characteristics, abilities, and the support they need in an inclusive classroom. Ang focus po dito ay ang physical and motor disabilities na po ng mga mag-aaral, ang kanilang learning characteristics, abilities, at saka yung support na kinakailangan nilang matanggap sa kanilang mga guro, lalo na kung sila ay nasa inclusive classroom. Dahil nga sa pagkakaalam nating lahat na ang katulad nila ay nangangailangan ng magsusuporta, mag-i-educate sa kanila para hindi sila panghinaan ng loob kahit na sila ay may ganoong sitwasyon. Bago ang lahat, ano muna ang physical disability? When we say physical disability, it is a physical condition that affects a person's mobility, physical capacity, stamina, and dexterity. So napakahirap na may ganitong kapansanan, di ba, lalo na physical. Kasi napakahalaga ngayon na kikilos ka, gagalaw ka, para mag-grow ka, para mag-develop ka. Pero sa physical disability, lahat apektado at limitado din lahat paggalaw mo. Kaya galingan mo, limitado dahil sa physical disability. Halimbawa, kung ikaw ay may kapansanan sa kamay, mahihirapan kang magsulat, mahihirapan kang gagalaw, mahihirapan kang gumawa ng mga bagay na kinakailangan gamitan ng kamay, so dun pa lang, limitado na ang lahat. When a child has difficulty moving and walking, the physical domain of development is affected. So tama. Kasi ano ba naman ang physical domain? Di ba ito ay napakahalaga sa ating development ng ating katawan. Sa physical changes, which includes growing in size, strength, physical coordination, and the movement of the body. So kung ang isang bata ay walang kakayahan na gumalaw, maglakad, gumawa ng mga bagay na simple lang, ay apektado talaga yung development niya. Kasi, di ba nga sabi nila kapag ang tao na mag-i-exercise at gagalaw tapos gagawa siya ng paraan o mag-workout siya, may magbi-build, may magdi-develop, which is yung kanyang muscle. So sa case ng bata na hindi siya makagalaw, apektado yung development niya. Yung pag-move niya, yung kanyang physical changes ay mahihirapan din. There are 4 examples of physical disability. First is development coordination disorder or dyspraxia. Second is stereotypic movement disorder. Third is tics. 4 is cerebral palsy. Development coordination disorder or dyspraxia. When we say development coordination disorder or DCD, also known as dyspraxia, is a condition affecting physical condition. It causes a child to perform less well than expected in daily activities for their age and appear to move clumsily. According to DCM-5 o American Psychiatric Association 2013, it refers to significant and persistent deficits in coordinated motor skills and are significantly below expected typical development. Development coordination disorder or DCD, also known as dyspraxia, is a term na ginagamit ng mga therapist sa kanilang trabaho. Ito ay ang kondisyon na nakaka-apekto sa kanilang physical coordination. So, sa developmental coordination disorder, ito yung mga batang kumikilos na parang walang pakundangan. Kung sila ba ay makakasagi, kung sila ba ay makakasakit. Halimbawa nito ay ang mga bata na hindi kayang bumaba sa hagdan. Pangalawa, yung may hawak siyang bagay o kahit anong bagay at ito ay kanyang nabibitawan. Ang iba pang halimbawa ay ang gawain sa school, mga aktibidad tulad ng pagsulat, kahit simpleng pagkulay at kahit ng paggamit ng mga gunting hindi nila kayang gawin. The second example of physical disability is stereotypic movement disorder. It is a condition in which a person makes repetitive, purposeless movement. Ito yung paulit-ulit nilang nagagawa or ginagawa sa sarili. Tapos kahit wala namang katuturan ng mga bagay na ginagawa nila, nagagawa nila iyon. These behaviors interferes with social, academic, or other activities that it may also result in self-harm or injury. Dahil nga po sa paulit-ulit nila na ginagawa mga bagay na alam nila man lang nakakasakit. Halimbawa nito ay yung nanginginig yung kamay nila, tapos nag-shake, nagwi-wave, body rocking, head banging, biting, kaya nakakatakot, kaya kailangan nila ng gabay para mabantayan sila. Third example is tics. Tics are sudden twitches, movements, or sounds that people do repeatedly. People who have this cannot stop their body from doing these things. So dito sa tics, condition siya ng nervous system and controllable movements of the leg, arm, or even our body. So halimbawa nito is yung isang tao na may palaging kumukurap na hindi nila alam na kumukurap pala sila ng kumukurap. Kumbaga, makukumpara or mahalin tulad ko sila ng mannerism ng isang tao. Lastly, cerebral palsy. It is a group of disorder that affect a person's ability to move and maintain balance and posture. This is usually caused by a problem that affects the development of the baby's brain while is growing in the womb. So, nangyayari ito before, during, or after birth due to an accident or injury na nadadamage yung brain ng baby. Tapos yung muscle tone affects voluntary movements in full control of the muscles that results in the delay of child's growth and fine motor development. Nahihirapan na yung i-develop ng brain dahil naapektuhan pati yung ability ng tao para makontrol yung kanyang muscle. There are 4 classification of cerebral palsy. First is homoplegia, second is hemiplegia, third is diplegia, fourth is quadriplegia. These are different classification of cerebral palsy depending on what parts of the body are affected and the nature of the affect muscle tone and movements. The term plegia from the Greek word meaning to strike is used with the perfect and that indicate the location of limb movement. Monoplegia is a paralysis of single limb, usually an arm. It is a type of paralysis that falls under hemiplegia. Common symptoms are weakness, numbness, and pain in affected limb. Next is hemiplegia. Is a condition caused by brain damage or spinal cord injury. Third is the triplegia. 3 limbs are affected. Fourth is the quadriplegia. All 4 limbs, both arms and legs, are affected. Movement of the trunk and face may also be impacted. Now, after you've learned the definition of learners with difficulty moving and walking, let's now proceed to the identification part. First is developmental coordination disorder or dyspraxia. Development coordination disorder can be defined as difficulties or delays in fine or gross motor movements. It is also referred as dyspraxia, and learners with this kind of condition, usually it affects their physical coordination. They have poor balance, palagi po silang natutumba, nadadapa. They don't have proper motor planning execution. Kaya they cannot able to do the usual physical tasks that normal students can do. And also, it is not a learning disorder because it does not affect the intelligence of the learners, but it can impact their learning. Speaking of the signs of developmental coordination disorder for developmental stage of early childhood, the sign are hindi nila kayang sintasan ng kanilang sariling sapatos. Wala silang kakayahang suotan ng damit ang kanilang mga sarili. Madalas mali yung pagkahawak nila ng spoon at fork, at lahat ng nahahawakan nila palagi nilang nabibitawan. Palagi silang nadadapa, na natutumba kapag nadja-jumping, at they cannot be able to catch or to kick a ball when they are playing, at kapag naglalakad, lagi silang nababangga. And when it comes to developmental stage of school age, the signs during the early childhood, is more visible now, kung saan hindi pa nagpa-participate ang mga mag-aaral pagdating sa mga physical activities such as sports, and they cannot able to do writing tasks for a longer period time o dahil madalas silang nabibitawan ang lapis o ballpen kapag nagsusulat, kaya kailangan pa silang minsan gagabayan ng guro kapag magsusulat sila. And if the parents recognize that their child shows any signs of developmental coordination disorder, they can seek medical advice, kung saan ang specialist for the condition needs to make an assessment. First is to determine the child's development history, to know if the early development milestone of the child are delayed, like for example, walking, self-feeding, self-dressing, rolling. Kung yung mga bagay na yon ay na-achieve ng bata ng late, it could be factor na mayroon siyang developmental coordination disorder. Second, to determine the child's intellectual ability, because this condition is a lack of coordination with mental intentions and ability of the body to carry out those intentions. For example, if the mind of the child, he or she wants to tie his or her shoe, but the brain does not properly send the instruction for shoe tying, kaya hindi niya kayang magagawa. Number 3 is how the child execute his or her gross and fine motor skills. Gross motor skills. Use of large muscles in the body to coordinate body movement. These are gross movement come from large muscle growth and whole body movement, like for example, how the learners do jumping, walking, running, and maintaining balance. Usually, ito po yung gross motor skills are exposed when learners are having playtime activities. Fine motor skills. When we say fine motor skills, coordination of small muscles. For the fine motor skills, it is the coordination of small muscles which the synchronization of the hands and finger and with the eyes. For example, how the learner involved with smaller co-actions such as picking up objects between the thumb and finger, writing carefully, tie shoelaces, and even blinking. The continuation of the identification part will be discussed of Aliyah Lacadon.
Now, I will discuss why there is a need for assessment. First, to check the child's balance, sensitivities to touch, and performance in other and gross and fine motor activities. Second, to analyze the child's oral motor coordination. It is necessary to assess child's movement in terms of growth and fine motor activities as well as their oral motor coordination, for this can be a sign that probably acquired the developmental coordination disorder, which is identifiable having struggle in physical tasks and activities, assigning them and their early year is beneficial. There are two things that evaluator needs to check. First, strength and flexibility. By palpating muscles, bulk, and texture, assessing flexibility of joints and the quality and intensity and grasp. Second, according to Harris et al. 2015, which includes observing functional fine and gross motor skills and determining hard dominance or lack thereof. Now, I will discussing stereotypic disorder. It is characterized by repetitive, seemingly driven, and apparently purposeless motor behavior, made to look like handshaking or waving, body rocking, head banging, self-biting, or hitting one's only body. Children display stereotypic movement or behavior often referred as stereotypies. There are two classifications of stereotypic movement disorder. First is primary non-aesthetic motor stereotypies. These are movements usually appear in the first 3 years of a child's life and often continue. True primary motor stereotypies are very common, the cause of unknown. Sa madaling sabi, ang mga batang may ganitong kondisyon ay hindi madaling ma-identify sa kanila kung meron silang disorder. Kasi nga, ang kanilang itsura ay kagaya din ng mga normal na bata na nasa kanilang edad. Kaya din hindi madaling ma-identify ang cause nito dahil di naman makikita sa mga bata na mayroon silang kondisyon unless sumpungin sila. Second is secondary motor stereotypies. Occur in children who have developmental problem. For example, is a child with autism, mental retardation, or vision or hearing impairment. In such cases where behavior or neurological disorder has been diagnosed, the movement are called secondary motor stereotypies. In connection to this secondary motor stereotypies is associated within any neurological disorder. This is why they're called secondary as a support the first cause of their developmental problem. Is their neurological disorder under secondary developmental disorder happen is to be stereotypic movement disorder. Ngayon, magtungo naman tayo sa learning characteristics. Motor difficulties and disabilities affect child's ability to perform daily tasks, which includes memory, perceptions, and processing, carrying coordinated movements, and even the speech. As I know, our brain command our body na nariyan ang part niya ng cerebellum, which is responsible for our stances and thinking ability. Also, meron tayong cerebellum na responsible sa motion, motor abilities at mga kakayahan nating matuto ng mga bagay-bagay. At yung brainstem naman na responsible para sa mga involuntary movements sa katawan natin ngayon, if ever na may mag-function sa mga ito, lalong-lalo na sa cerebellum na imposible before and after birth mangyayari. Magkakaroon ito ng negative impact sa ating daily activity like what happened those with motor difficulties and disabilities. Now, let's move on the negative effects to student physical-social functioning, kung saan ang first three ay brought by developmental coordination disorder, while the separated one brought by the stereotypist movement disorder. Let's begin the first lower level of self-efficacy and competency in physical and social domain. Meaning they can control all motivation, behaviors, and social environment. Kasi nga hirap silang makisabay sa ibang student, kaya hirap din silang makabuo ng stable connection to them na nagdudulot sa kanila ng pagiging depressed and anxious. Kasi sa realidad, sila yung tipong estudyante na madalas di mapili sa pangkatang gawain. This for sure, for them possible na because of this, i-down nila ang kanilang sarili to the point na pwede nila maisip these are dumbbell sa iba, kaya ayaw sila ibilong sa isang grupo, and I hope this can lead to the depression that pass them to come up with the third. Third is externalizing behavior, kung saan naka-violate sila ng social norms na posibleng nakakasakit sa ibang tao. Kaya at this point, mahirapan na kasi they are not just having motor difficulties but also mental and emotional, that what they feel. And lastly, they are streetic movement disorder. Result to doesn't stop 10 dahil dito ina-underestimate ang kakayahan. So he or she rather to withdraw mass. Ginugusto niya na i-separate ang kanyang sarili sa iba. Ngayon, dadako naman tayo sa tinatawag nating range of strength, kung saan na-mention na ang range of strength must be considered in every disabled person. Kasi every one of us have on strength, and those strength need to recognize this strength as a weapon para makasabay tayo sa iba, and also magkaroon tayo ng positive motion nang makakapag-balance dun sa negatibo lamang. Siyempre, depende pa rin sa level nila ng disorder nila ang pag-attend nila ng na banggit na qualities. Kumbaga, we need to adjust for to attend those mentioned skills. It will be affected if their presence of supportive adult. Last, student with motor movement disorder may excel in other intelligence that are not controlled by motor function. Long time, those normally development student here at the educator needs to at least make adjustment kung paano tayo magpapagawa ng mga activities sa kanila na aligned na kanila lang strengths. Kasi if we can push them to something na di talaga nila kaya or nahihirapan sila, it will unfair for them kasi na may difficulties sila doon, and I think it's something will feel bad for them self.